Hey, everybody. Welcome to the On Podcast, the On Microsoft Podcast, the official and only podcast for our website. I am your host, Kareem Anderson. I'm joined by the world's greatest co host.
Arif Bacchus.
Yeah, we're here for another podcast about Microsoft stuff in what could be considered sort of a slow week, but we do have tons of news still, specifically, especially about Xbox stuff. I know a lot of people love hearing that. Yeah, we'll go through the rundown and talk about what we have for today.
So, as this is our 10th episode now, and as usual, we start with our rundown of topics for the day. So, our first topic, like Kareem mentioned, is our Xbox Series X review. We were planning to have our writer Laurent appear on the show, but he also purchased the Xbox Series X. And in addition to the Series X, which Microsoft sent us for review, he's planning to review the Series X sometime next week. So he'll be joining us on the show next week to talk about both consoles. But for now, we have Kareem and myself on the show today to pretty much summarize Laurent's review. And Kareem can get us into our second topic, which is.
Yeah, we have possibly some gossipy news about a Surface Pro 8 prototype, kind of where Microsoft might be going for this next version of its Surface, even though it kind of missed its fall hardware launch. I know that they're planning stuff for Q1, so we'll talk about that.
And then our third topic is something everyone always loves to hear about, which is Microsoft Teams. There's a lot of Teams news this week and Teams rumors. So we'll just be recapping that for you guys who are looking forward to something very important in Teams, which people who work for different organizations like myself might end up appreciating.
Yeah, tons of team stuff, and then we'll jump into our week ahead stuff where we talk about Xbox launch event, and I think something near and dear to Backus's heart, which is
Yeah, we'll be talking about, well, not talking about because we're not Apple insiders, but we do have some rumors coming up about Apple's November 10th event where it's saying that they might be introducing the long awaited ARM MacBooks. So, Kareem and myself will have some chit chat about what we think about these incoming MacBooks. Then, of course, myself, I did pre order an iPhone 12 Pro Max, so I'm planning to review it for on Microsoft. If not this week, maybe next week. So I want to talk about it. Like, what is it like using an iPhone as a Microsoft fan? Can you be a Microsoft fan with an Apple product?
yeah, this goes back to what is it, 2017 when Nadella took stage and talked about his Microsoft phone, which was just an iPhone loaded with Microsoft apps. So
Yeah,
he's
so we'll
following
be
in those
revisiting
footsteps.
that topic with my
Yeah,
iPhone review.
and just as a quick note about world events, we do now have an official 46th president, Joe Biden, which was announced earlier today. We thought we'd just mention that, especially in context of some news about how Microsoft's kind of buddying up to the upcoming presidency and the relationship with the previous one. I know we have written a lot about the Jedi Project and how the Trump administration's involvement with that has affected both Amazon and Microsoft. It looks like Microsoft's hoping to avoid that. We reported about some donations they made about 2 weeks ago. They didn't make the donations, but we reported about the findings of that from the FEC about their donations to the Biden administration, just kind of wanting to get on chummy terms. We assume most other tech companies will come out and with their congratulatory responses, as they did with the Trump administration as well. So we just thought we'd say that off the top.
Of course, but everyone's here to hear about our Xbox Series X.
Yeah, who cares about the
Why do
president?
I keep making this mistake every single week? It's Xbox X Series review to be certain.
I think it's going to be an ongoing thing. I think the day that you get it correct may be the day we need to shut down the podcast.
So if you walk into a GameStop and be like, "Can you give me an Xbox X?" Will they give you a Series X or X or what? They themselves probably will be confused.
I think they're gonna toss you an Xbox One X marked up. So that way they can get those margins.
Anyway, now official here. So if our long-term readers and our readers might have noticed this week that our official review of the Xbox X Series went live, and as we hinted last week, our writer in France, Laurent, he was the one who did the review, and this was a review unit provided to us by Microsoft. So before we go anywhere, we'd like to thank Microsoft for sending it our way. And of course, like just like his unboxing last week, Laurent had a pretty nice piece up on the website where he guided us through the Xbox X Series experience. And of course, it's not a technical review. It's a review from the layman's perspective of a casual gamer or someone who just plays Xbox for the games. And this is something that he's really good at. So I highly suggest that you guys check out his review. The link will be below. But too long, don't read version. Laurent's review isn't that technical, and it's more of what about it feels like to play existing and next gen games on the console.
Yeah, as Arif just explained, it's the unboxing that we kind of went through, and just the look and feel, not necessarily resume speeds or processing power or anything like that. Especially since we're super early into this next gen console, we're not going to be seeing the full potential of all the games. I know that some games that are launching or being played on this platform will come with day one ray tracing upgrades and package for that, just to kind of explore those options. But this is just as the box comes and just with the games available that he kind of went through. His thoughts were that the hardware is solid. He mentioned specifically, quote, "The Series X is the quietest Xbox console I've ever had. The Xbox Series X isn't that much bigger compared to the Xbox One, which could be plus or minus for those of you who were fans of the industrial design of the Xbox One X. Um, we've seen the side-by-side comparisons of the PS5 versus the Xbox Series X, and just where it stands, it is not the Xbox Series X isn't as flashy as the PS5, but its utilitarian design works for some people. Beyond that, he mentions that the once you get into the game, I know a lot of that was embargoed. The OS is pretty much the same as it is on the
Every other
Xbox.
Xbox
Yeah, every other
console, yeah.
Xbox One.
Except
So
except for the dynamic backgrounds, which are exclusive to the next gen consoles.
yeah, I don't know if it's some sort of dedicated processing that goes on for that, or I don't know why it can't be ported back. I would love to see it, but it is what it is.
Overall, he also this was a concern for me in considering upgrading the console, and it's something upgrading between console generations, and it's something that people often ask about. I mean, our own Dave asked in the chat when Laurent posted his review. He was like, "How does the Xbox Series X feel overall?" Like in terms of performance. So that Laurent noted in his review that everything feels snappier thanks to the new NVMe SSD. And in terms of load times, it takes less than 20 seconds to boot, and opening apps and games are much faster when compared to an Xbox One X.
Yeah, and I believe there have been some comparisons online. You can go on YouTube, I believe, to find them. They've also compared the Xbox Series X openings and resumes to the PS5, and they've been edging out in most cases, in most instances. The Xbox Series X has come out ahead of that. Again, these are microscopic. The differences of maybe 5 or 10 seconds when opening and closing apps or games, which in a vacuum really doesn't mean very much to the average person. It'll be it's when compared to your previous console and to see your money's worth, it's nice, but try not to. I hope people try not to get caught in the my PS5 is faster than my Xbox. They're both super fast for next gen consoles. What we will want to see going down the road, as we do continued reviews and write-ups about this console, is the controller experience. I know that there have been a ton of
Oh yeah.
reports and reviews of the PS5's controller and its haptics, things like that. I know that there have been some small tweaks for the Xbox. Not didn't seem like a lot of reviewers that dove into those tweaks and benefits, maybe because they're so evolutionary versus revolutionary like the PS5. But we'll try and see if we can get Lauren to kind of look into the controller. Or if we get our own consoles personally, we'll write about that.
He did like the controller though. He did say that it looks and feels different from previous Xbox consoles and but there's a but attached quote. But Microsoft made its new Xbox controller slightly smaller to make it more inclusive. It still feels great in the hands and existing accessories such as Xbox One trackpad will still fit. Microsoft also has added texture grips on the triggers and bumpers. And finally, this has been a complaint for a lot of people, USB-C port for charging and a new share button and a redesigned D-pad. But a note on that sharing, something that Laurent mentioned in his review, I mean, it's kind of frustrating for him. Something that he also wanted is support for native game streaming. I know you have some thoughts about Mixer. So now that Mixer is dead, there's no native streaming. You would have to open the Twitch app or YouTube and keep it running in the background. And by the
Yeah,
way, PlayStation 4 has had that for years.
yeah, that's been its benefit, and I think the problem was that Xbox was trying to sort out its streaming options, so they didn't really have a dedicated button for it. They weren't using Twitch because it was a competitor at the time. I don't see why they couldn't implement something like the PS4 and the PS5 will have, and just making Twitch the default. I know they're probably going to make Facebook gaming or whatever if they do that option, the default, but they should have uh, a road or pathway for people to set a default stream and let that be, Twitch, Amazon, YouTube, or Facebook.
But it's not all bad for Microsoft because if you guys recall, Microsoft was really pushing this quick resume feature, and it's something that Laurent himself really liked in his console review experience.
Yeah, so while you might have to switch between apps, at least the quick resume is easy enough for people to open up their instance of Twitch and then keep the game going and kind of hop back and forth if they need to in that aspect. I know that the game bar has a lot of settings that should, I believe, be ported over to the Xbox, as far as customizations for the way streams are, the way that you have your cameras positioned, the audio that you pull in, stuff like that. I feel like all of that should be brought automatically to the Xbox, and if it isn't on the roadmap, hopefully somebody within the Xbox team is listening and just bring those over. I know that they're trying to merge the two platforms into just one kind of mishmash of PC/console experience, but as of right now, they're two separate, and the PC has a lot of features that the Xbox Series X could benefit from for streaming.
And speaking also related to that is loading times, which is something again, like I hinted earlier. Laurent said that it's not dramatically different, but it is different, and it's a big difference compared to the Xbox One X, which uses a regular hard drive.
Yeah, I also think that's something that is beyond just the hard drive. It's something that developers have to start
Right.
working with. The way that they write their code into their games and the settings that they use for um, positions and how I think the way the SSD is working for the PS5 and how people can kind of go from remove the loading screen altogether because of that. I know the SSD on the Xbox Series X is pretty quick, maybe not as quick or custom as that, but again, I think it's part of Xbox fault or Xbox responsibility slash developers, and developers are just now kind of getting their hands into these next gen consoles. So I believe in like three years roughly, we'll start seeing even more impressive load times and load experiences for people.
Good segue into the game segment, which Laurent, he played a couple of Xbox Series X and S optimized games during the time that he had the console, and he most of the games were previously released titles like Forza Horizon 4, Gears 5, and Sea of Thieves. But overall, he did like the experience, and he's like they look good and they play good on the console. Some of these games are getting Series X and S optimized updates, like Kareem hinted at, but for now, he did like the overall gaming experience. But at the time when he wrote his review, he didn't have access to Watch Dogs Legion and Assassin's Creed, which he didn't have while he was writing the review. But he firmly believed that if he had these games, he would have enjoyed the gaming experience a little bit more.
Yeah, it's tough. I think for both consoles. I know that Sony's leaning hard with the Miles Morales Spider-Man as
Right.
their
Yeah.
PS5/PS4 flagship game, and it looks amazing from everything I've seen. Um, on the Xbox side, it's a little bit murkier as far as what's going to be that cross-generational game that helps push sales for the Xbox. Like you said, I think Assassin's Creed Valhalla might be that one for the Xbox, even though it'll still be available for the PS5. I just believe that the graphics and the 60 frames per second will be a little bit more of a seller for the Xbox. Um, I'm not sure if Assassin's Creed on the PS5 will have ray tracing plus um, the 60 frames per second. I know I've seen a lot of reporting that it's one or the other, and I think it's both for the Xbox. So again, that's a benefit for them as far as games are concerned. We're still again early into this console generation, and right now it's going to be the early adopters for I believe the next 3 months or so. Going in and swooping these consoles up. For everyone else, probably a March going into the next E3 or whatever iteration that's going to be. We'll start seeing pickup sales for Microsoft.
Yeah, so overall, we're getting towards the end of the Xbox segment now for you people who are getting a bit impatient. So overall, we asked Laurent, what does he think? Should people upgrade to the new Xbox? So pretty much, he did say that it's a really great value at $500, and he thinks Microsoft will kick off this new console generation in a much better position thanks to a future-proof console and, of course, something that we talk about almost every single week, Xbox Game Pass.
Yeah, Xbox Game Pass is a no-brainer for anybody in the Xbox ecosystem, I believe. And for those who are new to it, just to get it, to have games to play, to have the digital download stuff immediate, and be able to cross play some of that stuff on your console as well, is I think is super beneficial. And I want to also note, because again I know we don't all live with infinite amounts of money, that Microsoft does offer a financing program, which I think is pretty impressive. Again, for about $30, you get the console itself, the $500 console value, and Game Pass included. So you're paying for, what normally would have been $15, I think, $14 for Game Pass, and $500 for the console. For $30, you get both of those, and after 2 years, you get to own it. So for those of you who are again looking to get this console, get it early, maybe looking at that option as well.
Yeah, there's plenty of value in the Xbox Series X.
Yes.
So speaking of value, a lot of people have been thinking it's already November and Microsoft didn't refresh the Surface Pro lineup, but
Where
we
was it?
did. But we did see a prototype float around, and Kareem will tell you guys about it.
We saw something that was considered or called a prototype. I've been pouring mounds and mounds of salt over this story because perhaps I'm just jaded and want to see a new iteration of the Pro X that or the Pro that isn't this. But anyway, the details of it are we saw on eBay. Someone had a listing for the Surface Pro 8 prototype, and they were very specific about Pro 8 and prototype in the title. It was posted on October 31st, so it wasn't April's Fool's or anything, but
Okay.
and it was on eBay. The starting price was around $1,300, which is interesting, signifying that it's a price increase. But for that price, people were able to bid on a model that had ES versions of the 11th gen i7 processor. They also were able to. It seems like this prototype, which is designed probably for engineers and developers early on, was packed with 32 gigs of RAM, and it maxed out about the Pro 7, which maxes out at 16. So we're looking at something that's going to be potentially used for enterprise and some other kind of things that are outside of just everyone picking up a regular PC. It had 1 terabyte of Samsung's SSD, which is again just another benefit. Again, at $1,300, I believe this Surface Pro prototype, if it is true, it looks to be about the top tier model of whatever's coming out. Now, the reason why I'm pouring salt on it is because it looks from the pictures itself as just a regular Surface Pro 7. There was no redesign. There was no hardware updates or anything to it. It looks like it's just a spec refresh. And there have been rumors about a spec refresh coming in the first quarter, and that's mostly due to COVID-related uh,
Supply
manufacturing.
issues. Yeah.
Yeah. So, we'll see. I'll let Eric talk about it because, like I said, I am hoping that, while the specs are amazing, that we get something that's more similar to the Pro X in design. I mean, they've been using that same body for what, 5 years now?
I mean, the Pro X has Qualcomm chips inside, and Microsoft is able to make the device so thin because of the choice of CPU. And I know Tiger Lake they do have fans on board, so I don't think Microsoft would be able to slim down the Pro 8 and put a Tiger Lake CPU inside. So it wouldn't be too surprising to see that maybe this prototype model is actually what will be out there. I mean, it's kind of been rinse and repeat anyway over the past couple generations, more evolutionary rather than revolutionary.
Yeah, and again, that's a very solid argument and very sound, and for all we know, it's more accurate than what I'm hoping for. But we have seen that they are able to, with this Pixel Sense display that they've been using for the last, I don't know, 5 years, plus new form factors like the Surface Go 2 and the new laptop, the Surface Go laptop as well, and the Pro X, that they've been able to at least shrink the bezels. So
Right.
if they can't make it thinner, they can at least give people more screen real estate. And the I/O, needs to be updated. While they did add a USB-C, I think a secondary one, and kind of eschewing the USB-A at this point might be something that they can look into. Maybe some improvements to the keyboard and the way that it, kind of works and attaches to this new screen. Those are kind of things that, we would like to see. And it just looks like, again, like this is just a spec refresh. And um, I think when you have competitors who, well, they're the flagship detachable, there are still some PCs that are, offering you way more for that
Like I
than what the
said in
Pro
my
does.
HP Envy review.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
Uh, there are other avenues out there. So again, this could be part of just we have some old Pro 7s that we could toss in some new specs and sell to enterprise and continue our Q1 revenue streams, or this isn't true at all, and this guy just upsold a modded out Pro 7.
Yeah, it's true. That's something that I do want to point out. It is easy to manipulate those benchmarks and those pages to make it look like you have a certain processor inside. So, like Kareem said, mounds and mounds and mounds of salt here. It's not something to say that it is coming with Tiger Lake inside and that it will look the same. But based off of Microsoft's pattern, like I'm saying, it is a possibility that it probably will end up going that way.
Yeah, I mean, you're definitely right. I mean, they could. There's always room for Microsoft to disappoint. Yeah, it's like the Jello saying. There's always room for Jello. There's always room for Microsoft disappointment.
Okay, but something that doesn't disappoint people is Microsoft Teams.
Not
This
not
is
not generally.
but if you're a little bit on the older side or using an older version of Windows with IE 11 and you haven't yet tried out the new awesome version of Microsoft Edge, we have some tough news for you.
Yeah, it looks like the company has now started sending out emails to Office 365 subscribers, reminding them to switch over to the new Chromium-based version before November 30th.
So use Edge because sooner or later you won't be
Because
able.
Just use it
Team
because it's better.
you won't be able to use Teams in Internet Explorer 11 starting later in November. So Microsoft is letting everyone know it's time to jump to New Edge if you want to keep using the Teams web app. Sorry, I should have confirmed. It's the Teams web app, not Teams itself.
Yeah. For all you, ActiveX holdouts, I think now is the time to let it go. Start, if you can, sending your code over for Chromium Edge.
And for you people who work for multiple places and have different Teams accounts, we do have some good news for you on that front too. A little rumor was circulating that a new capability is coming to Teams soon in December. It was added on the Microsoft 365 roadmap, and a Microsoft employee on Twitter wanted to clarify a bit that soon you'll be able to switch between multiple accounts with Teams, but only initially. It won't be work accounts. You'll be able to switch between work and personal accounts. But it's
Yeah,
a start.
yeah, it's a start. It's definitely something that's been needed and kind of a head scratcher as to like why you couldn't. I mean, if you can do it for Outlook or Word or things like that, why couldn't you do it for Teams? But obviously there's some kind of framework behind Teams that was preventing it that has now been overcome. So for you select few, even I mean, I know that Teams is building its numbers and it's growing, but in retrospect to the marketplace, it's still pretty niche for a lot of people. And for the ones that are even further niche that have two instances of having to use Teams, this is a benefit for you guys.
Again, it was rumored that it would be coming by the end of this year, but apparently it's not coming until 2021.
I mean, let's
So,
be honest. This year has been going on way too long anyway.
exactly.
Let's just jump to 2021 where we start seeing some new stuff and hopefully it'll be
But
better.
one more piece of Teams news: new capability to reply to specific messages is also coming to Teams soon. So the desktop version of Teams is finally getting the feature which has been on the mobile apps for quite a while, which lets you reply and quote to messages instead of starting new messages. Michael Buan, a territory channel manager for modern work at Microsoft, had the news on his LinkedIn, but apparently there's no estimated time of arrival just yet.
Yeah, we always have to be acknowledging the fact that when these things come out on people's personal, even on LinkedIn's a business account, their personal blogs or postings like that, that these aren't necessarily official. Even though he works in on the platform and specifically on the team itself. So again, we're hoping that this, he's saying it's coming, which is probably why he didn't give an ETA, but also don't expect it anytime soon.
Speaking of ETA, we're now moving into our week ahead segment. And coming up this week is a big moment for Microsoft, the Xbox Series X launch on November 10th.
Yeah, we've been talking about it since forever. And it'll be here next week, and we'll see what they do as far as the digital festivities, and kind of I'm hoping that they're passing out a ton of achievements and awards for people to kind of get them incentivized to not only get back on their Xbox if they've gotten off of it, but to go out and purchase the new one. Because I think in when they released the Xbox One X, they had a ton of day one achievements that could only be had on that console. So those of you who are scavengers or achievement scavengers, maybe this will be the time to crack open that case and start playing early.
And they're planning a global live stream event, and it kicks off at 11 a.m. Pacific time, 2 p.m. Eastern time. And you'll see various celebrities and members of the Xbox team and content creators and partners from around the world on their YouTube, Twitch, and Facebook gaming streams.
I don't know who you're going to see on Facebook Gaming, but at least at least on YouTube and Twitch, we could probably expect to see Snoop Dogg and iJustine and some other ones. It'll be interesting to see if you can get back Ninja. I feel like he owes some people some appearances for Xbox.
But being the evil corporation that they are, Apple is also holding an event on November 10th.
Yeah, and it's interesting that it has nothing to do about gaming. So it just happens to coincide with uh, their they're squeezed into the last bit of um, 2020 to get out some products. It's rumored. I don't know if it's been official, but it's rumored that they're going to be finally taking the wraps off their first ARM MacBooks, and I think they'll probably introduce some Intel ones alongside of those. I don't expect to see a ton of refreshed design hardware. I know a lot of people are like, "Oh, this is going to be the super thin and ultra capable versions." I think these are just going to be MacBook Pros with ARM processors in them, and probably some astounding battery life. But aside from that, I don't expect much out of that.
Do you think these are MacBooks can give Microsoft a run for the money?
I've been going back and forth with Laurent about this and how I don't think that these travel in the same spheres. Even Windows on ARM isn't a MacBook ARM competitor. I honestly believe people who are into Mac OS and people who are in Windows 10 are really stationed in those camps.
Right. Yeah.
There aren't going to be people that see a 25-hour MacBook Pro or MacBook or MacBook and say, "Oh, I'm going to ditch 20 years of Windows OS to get that." I don't see that crossover. What I do see is that it's going to have to push the Windows on ARM's team to get their version of Rosetta down so that their apps will shine and people won't even have a necessity or inkling to even consider that on the MacBook side.
Again, that's what I think when we think of our MacBooks. Apple has been working on this for many, many years now, and they've obviously, I mean, I can't say obviously because we don't have one, but I do think they've took their time and ensured that these apps and Mac OS in general will work good with ARM chipsets, which is something that we've seen people complain about with the Surface Pro X and Microsoft's own SQ1. It doesn't necessarily run the same way an Intel processor would.
Yeah, I mean, taking a 30,000-foot view of this entire thing, you also have to understand that this ARM push for Apple's side of the field isn't so much to bring old x86 apps over. It's to make the iOS platform more presentable on a traditional laptop and things like that. While with the benchmarks for x86 apps and things like that are astounding based on what we've seen so far. It isn't to incorporate these old school apps. It's to make sure that the iOS ones have been working well, and they've been slowly doing that in plain sight. Like we've been seeing iOS updates after iOS updates bring in more desktop features and things like that. So
Right.
once they make the switch and you're able to have all of your iPad apps on your Mac, that's when people will see that benefit, that library of apps. As far as the Mac is concerned right now, they don't have a ton of amazing apps. They're the ones that are there are really well designed, but their app store is barren, and people have been relying on the web on a Mac to run everything they need.
Right. But speaking of app stores, something that has a lot of apps are iPhones.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of Mac OS on ARM, like I said, this is the preparation for it. They've taken all their expertise from iPhones and iOS and iPad, and they're now moving it to ARM. And leading into this segue, you're
So,
getting. Oh, I think you have some news. I think you need to tell some people.
actually, you were actually doing a good job introducing it. So why don't you go ahead?
Yeah, our buddy here is getting his long-awaited iPhone 12 Pro Max, which is a mouthful, and he's doing that as a person who had a Microsoft Surface Duo,
Right.
and so now you're wondering, does he have an iPhone Pro Max, or does he have a Surface Duo?
So my Duo, I did send it back because I had an issue
Oh,
with the USB-C port. So and all not necessarily a good ending. So I did invest in an iPhone 12 Pro Max instead. And obviously you guys probably think of Apple as probably the same way that Fortnite does, which is a evil bad apple. But guys have to remember that Microsoft is a company now that invests in multiple platforms and they do have apps on iOS. So I'm kind of curious now, especially with iOS 14 and the ability to swap out default apps. What is it like having a premium phone like the 12 Pro Max as a Microsoft fan? Can you live with an iPhone as a Microsoft fan? So I pre-ordered the phone and I have it, and I'll be reviewing it from the Microsoft perspective and comparing it to using like obviously your phone doesn't work with iPhones, and I've been an advocate for Dell Mobile Connect. So it's something that I want to talk about. Like, can you use an iPhone and still have a Windows PC and be tied into that Microsoft ecosystem?
Yeah, I'm gonna jump in and throw an early spoiler alert because I believe you can. I think people are doing it every day. Aside from messaging, I don't see the huge drawback. I mean, a lot of the apps, while are nice, I mean, the app experience on any mobile platform is really nice. It's designed for it. But I mean, these all come from web properties essentially. There are very few mobile first, mobile only experiences. And so, any place that you're doing your banking, you can do it on the web. If you're doing, any type of, property searches and things like that are location based, you can still do that with your desktop. So I don't foresee too huge of a complication. Again, messaging may be the only place where you run into that brick wall, iMessage, and no alternative on Windows.
Yeah, it's pretty much a walled garden, but there are workarounds to get it to work.
Yeah, just don't let Apple know about them.
Yeah, obviously you might go the way of Fortnite.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's not going to work
So
for
that
everybody.
that that sums up that. You guys who didn't want to hear about iPhones can unmute me now and have Kareem address the elephant in the room, which is the United States election and how it relates to Microsoft's business.
Yeah, as we said off the top, we have a new president. We'll have a new administration, I believe the end of January. So we still have 2 more months or a month and a half of the current administration. And just how it relates to Microsoft, as we said, they've already come out and congratulated the new president and vice president in assuming whatever administration he chooses. And again, I don't believe this is exclusive to Microsoft. I believe Apple and Google and Twitter and Snapchat, every CEO will probably have their own congratulatory expressions for this administration. But as far as Microsoft in specific, we mentioned again the Jedi Project and some other instances in where Microsoft and the Trump administration have kind of crossed paths. Not only was it the Jedi contract, which is still being contested by Amazon, and their main contention is that the Trump administration kind of put its thumb on the scale in favor of Microsoft. Microsoft has not publicly acknowledged those claims specifically. They've just gone on and kind of said that they are working as fast and as best as they can to get the Department of Defense up and going with this new contract. The other place where they crossed paths was recently with TikTok, well, where Microsoft seemingly lost the bid. And again, there has been a lot of backroom talk about how that went down and how Microsoft lost that to Ellison and Oracle, which is a competitor to Microsoft. So again, just knowing that we have a new administration and kind of a clean slate for everyone in tech, Microsoft again is trying to make friendly with this administration to again avoid any type of negative ire from the administration.
Exactly. And the statement that Brad Smith put out on Twitter is like a couple of minutes after CNN and the other major outlets called the election. I'm quoting it here. He said, "As we did in 2016, we offer our congratulations to the President and Vice President elect Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. As we move forward as a nation, we look forward to helping build bridges to close the gaps that divide us." And he linked to a blog post from Microsoft which pretty much lays out those plans. We'll have the link in the description, and it's a layout of how they look forward to working with the administration.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what positions this administration takes as far as tech is concerned, and the just in general how they address tech and some of the shortcomings that we've seen. We know that there have been calls recently especially by the Republican senators, to bring up people like Mark Zuckerberg and who's the CEO for Twitter? Jack Dorsey, I
Jack
believe it is.
Dorsey, yeah.
To kind of drag these guys out, and we'll see. I know there are other senators, the Democratic ones, who are close to this administration, like Elizabeth Warren, who want to break up big companies, and Google's already in an antitrust suit right now with the current administration, the Trump administration, about being broken up as well. So it's new ground for everybody uh, with this new administration.
And in their blog post, Microsoft did take a kind of a both ways approach. The quote that they had to lead the blog post is that every president elect deserves our congratulations, best wishes, and support for the country as a whole. The peaceful transition of power has been an enduring and vital part of our democracy for over 2 centuries, and it remains so today. Those were the words that they used 4 years ago for the Trump administration, and they're using it again once more. So yeah, there it is.
Yeah, there you go. I mean, that's about all we're going to talk about that.
Not taking sides or anything, just stating the simple facts that Microsoft put out the statement and they want to comment on the election results.
Yeah, basically. So take it for what it's worth.
And I think that's a good way to end the podcast, right?
Yeah, I think we can let people go and have their rest of their weekend and the rest of the great week that's coming up, and just know that again we'll be reporting on any and everything that comes out it's Microsoft related, and even those things that aren't, which seems to be hobbies for
Everything
Eric
these
for me.
days.
Yeah. So yeah, we'll be reporting on everything. Just keep it locked. Oh, I also want to say congratulations to again everyone who participated in the Legion 5i giveaway. Those of you that got their subscriptions for Game Pass, again, congratulations. We had a big winner. He just received the laptop itself after a shipping snafu. But again, we're hoping to have all of you continue to read us, continue to participate, and at some point, maybe we'll bring you on to talk about your experience as a reader and a listener to our podcast and to our website.
Yeah, thanks again, everyone. We've made it through 10 episodes now. It's our big
The
10.
big
We're
one
going
zero.
big 1-0. We're going into number 11 next week. And like Kareem said, we always like hearing your feedback. So be sure to drop us a comment in the YouTube comments below and send us your comments to podcast at onmicrosoft.com and tweet us. Kareem is at mindhead1 and I am at abacjourn. So be sure to talk to us. We're good people. We
Yeah,
always
I
listen
mean,
to the people.
we're very new at this, so any comments, questions, suggestions, we'll take into consideration just to make this a better experience for both myself, my co-host, and for you guys as well. We want to make sure we're getting everything covered.
Yeah. Any final words?
Yeah, wear a mask, stay safe, and have a great night or a great day, whenever time you're listening to this, and enjoy yourself.
Thank you, everyone, for listening, and see you again here next Sunday, same place, same time.
See you guys.